Hello again, everybody! To celebrate the fact that August is either about to happen or is already happening, we decided to make a very special video all about the games that are coming out during this very, very special month. And yeah, we do this every month, but who's keeping track? Here are August 2024's biggest game releases. As always, before we get into it, a friendly reminder that release dates have been known to change, often well after the video is shot, cut, and published, and we also occasionally make mistakes, so apologies in advance if anything falls through the cracks for whatever reason. We're all doing our best out here. On August 1st, thank goodness you're here. I mean, thank goodness you're here every day, but that's the name of the wonderfully weird-looking slapformer that's out that day. This has you being a cartoon nuisance in a pastoral English village, which is pretty on brand since it's from the same publisher as Untitled Goose Game, which had plenty of nuisancing in a pastoral English village. Hello Cruel World is another game with an equally positive title, but considerably darker subject matter. This is a VR horror puzzle game in which you are an urban exploration Twitch streamer who discovers a secret testing facility hidden under an abandoned seafood restaurant, and your chat eggs you on as you try to rescue its single test subject from bizarre experiments. Hello Cruel World says hello to PC VR, MetaQuest 2 and 3 on August 1st. Still that day, the PS2 era Star Wars Bounty Hunter gets an upgraded re-release featuring some overhauled visuals and quality of life improvements and all that jazz. Plus an unlockable Boba Fett skin, which I would have lost my shit over back in 2003. I would say that this seems like a no-brainer slam dunk, but that's what we thought about the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection, which Aspyr was also behind, and that's proved to be a disaster, so maybe wait for the reviews on this one. In any case, Bounty Hunter is on everything. Another throwback getting a special edition release is Tomba, which retains the visuals of the beloved PS1 platformer but adds quick saving, a rewind feature, and a gallery of manuals, concept art, and ads and that sort of thing. That's on PS5, Switch, and PC, with a PS4 version coming later on. Thalassa, Edge of the Abyss was supposed to be out a couple months ago, but I guess it got delayed. That is a first-person psychological drama set in an undersea facility, so kind of like Gone Home crossed with BioShock, which isn't that much of a stretch when you consider that the people who made Gone Home also made the BioShock 2 DLC Minerva's Den. Anyway, none of them had anything to do with this as far as I know, but it goes to show you that deep sea complexes and deep characters with complexes aren't mutually exclusive. Anyway, Thalassa is on PC. If you just want a simple good old-fashioned video game, Kitsune Tales hits PC, and if you told me that this was a hit Japanese platformer from 1987 that was only ever released for the MSX, I would believe you, but it's actually a brand new game, and the devs clearly did their homework making it look old school. Bare Butt Boxing is the latest goofy physics party game, but this one involves various colorful unclothed humanoids trying to punch each other through some goals and portals. Part of me was sort of hoping this was more along the lines of BMX XXX or that old NES ROM hack of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out where everybody's naked, but you know what? Maybe it's better this way. Anyway, Bare Butt Boxing is on Switch and PC. Elsewhere in the world of indie games about indecent exposure, on August 2nd, you can go sans culotte in Pantless, which again isn't as lurid as it sounds, but it is instead a masochistic physics-based platformer about people with no pants on that takes some cues from games like QWOP and Getting Over It. That's on PC. Based on the name, Realm of Ink had me expecting a shameless World of Goo ripoff, but it's actually an isometric roguelite that happens to be loosely inspired by Japanese ink drawing. If you'd actually prefer a World of Goo style game, well, lucky Goo, because the long-awaited sequel World of Goo 2 hit Switch and PC that very same day. Imagine that. If you're in the market for a very pretty hand-painted 2D platformer, Unrooted would appear to be exactly that, and that's on PC on the 2nd as well. If you prefer a 2D platformer where you can tunnel through the environment itself, Pepper Grinder might be more your speed. That launched on PC and Switch earlier this year, and on August 6th, it's on everything else. If you'd rather just jump around and smash pixelated stuff, there's the hardcore action platformer Volgarr the Viking 2, which looks to pose plenty of challenges, and it's also coming to everything that day. If you want a challenge with considerably more dimensions and variables than that, there's also Level 0 Extraction, an asymmetrical PvPvE survival horror shooter where you either play as a member of one of the warring factions trying to loot a space station and get its systems online, or you take control of a horrible alien creature and try to kill everybody on board. That sounds f***ing awesome. That's on Steam for now, but it's coming to consoles at a later date. Speaking of alien creatures, if you like it when they're nice, well, look no further than Creatures of Ava, an action-adventure where you save and enlist a menagerie of extraterrestrial wildlife to guide you through various ecosystems in order to save the planet from some unthinkable blight. That's on PC and Xbox Series. August 8th, more creatures are lying in wait in Cat Quest 3. What sort of creatures, you ask? Well, cats, obviously, but probably also some rats, maybe a lion, maybe some fantastical beasts. That is coming to everything. People like those first two games, so here's some more. Also on everything is Steamworld Heist 2, which sets sail, or steam rather, on the 7 seas, and while the turn-based tactical combat from the first installment returns, this time there is some real-time naval combat as well. On PC, there's Preserve, a relaxing puzzle game about building a vibrant, flourishing ecosystem, which seems like a nice chill time. If you hate having a chill time and want to do some extreme tactical physics-defying Spec Ops baloney in VR, well, that's what's going down in The Burst, which is on MetaQuest and PC. Over on PSVR 2, as well as PC VR, you can enter the thrilling world of running a laundromat?
Now you may only see a pile of receipts, but I see a story.
But wait, hold up. You get to turn the laundromat into an arcade, and you can fill it with cool games, and then you get to play them in VR. But you do still have to do some laundromat owner stuff, like putting stuff in the dryer, and taking out the garbage and cleaning toilets. But hey, it's fun because it's a video game.
It does not look good.
Also, that exists as a non-VR game. If my riveting sales pitch won you over, it's actually pretty fun, so check it out. On August 9th, there's The Crush House, which is a self-proclaimed thirst-person shooter, which has you working as a camera person on a 90s reality show, but you can only follow certain cast members around, so it's like a cross between Pokemon Snap and Sleep No More, except it's horny. That's on PC. Now, if there's an exact opposite game to that game, it's probably Madden 25, which is out on the 13th for people who paid for early access, and the 16th for everybody else up in the nosebleeds. Madden, it's back, baby. This year, though, things are a little bit different. No, really. The fan-favorite 2003 Kia Sorento that previously allowed players to make their little guys drive all the way across the field to do the touchdowns will no longer be playable. Fans are furious. This is partially due to licensing issues between the NFL and the Hyundai Motor Group, who owns Kia. I don't know if you knew that, but also apparently it's against the rules. If you want to do a touchdown in football, you have to run over there. You can't drive in a 2003 Kia Sorento or anything else. Anyway, no more cars in Madden. I made all of that up, except for the part where Madden is on the Xboxes, PlayStations, and PC. On the 13th, Stormgate launches, and this may sound like a meteorological controversy, but it is in fact a free-to-play real-time strategy game, and before you write it off as a StarCraft 2 knockoff, it's probably worth pointing out that it was developed by Frost Giant Studios, which was founded by a bunch of ex-Blizzard devs who made StarCraft 2, so if you wish that Blizzard would quit messing around and actually make StarCraft 3 already, this might hold you over until then. An idle mind is the devil's playground, and if you find yours wandering or not wandering enough, put it to work solving some mysteries with everybody's favorite dog and bunny detectives in Sam and Max, the Devil's Playhouse, a remastered version of the 2010 Telltale narrative adventure that's on everything. On the 15th, the formerly PlayStation console exclusive Kenna Bridge of Spirits makes its way onto the Xboxes. Meanwhile, if you wish that Valheim had a more Mediterranean swords and sandals vibe, keep an eye on Dawn of Defiance, which offers a similar co-op survival crafting experience through the lens of Roman mythology that hits Steam early access that very same day. Farewell North is an open-world exploration puzzle game where a dog guides its owner past various obstacles, restoring color to the land, which is probably more exciting for the owner than the dog on account of the fact that dogs can't see color, but something tells me that's kind of the point. Anyway, on the 15th, you can take a hike on Xbox Series, Switch, and PC. Finally, for the 15th, Dredge, the Iron Rig, comes to everything that Dredge is already out for, bringing some new content like missions, bait, and gear to the hit Lovecraftian fishing simulator, which is one of those sentences that just makes me appreciate video games as a medium. You hear that somebody scooped up the rights to make a Dredge movie? I hope that happens. There are not enough Lovecraftian movies aside from the works of Stuart Gordon. Go watch Dagon, From Beyond, and Reanimator. They're all wonderful. On the 20th, quit monkeying around with the rest of these games and show some respect to the 900-pound gorilla in the room. I'm talking about Black Myth Wukong, the long-awaited Soulsborne based on the classic Chinese epic Journey to the West. This is not the first time this story has been adapted into a video game. Back in 2010, we got Ninja Theory's enslaved Odyssey to the West, which had Andy Serkis playing the role of the Monkey King, and of course, the original Dragon Ball is loosely based on the same story, but something tells me that this one is going to have less dirty jokes and bathroom humor. Anyway, that's just on PC and PS5 for now, but I believe an Xbox version is in the works. If you're in the mood for something a little more touchy-feely and a little less punchy-heely, Dustborn might be your cup of tea. This one looks like a cross between Sunset Overdrive and Life is Strange. It is a single-player narrative adventure about road tripping across a dystopian alternate timeline version of America that is on everything but Switch. If you're still playing Guild Wars 2, you're probably well aware that the Janthir Wilds expansion is coming out on the 20th as well, but if you were wondering when it'd be out, hopefully that Janthired your question. On August 23rd, Concord is out. This is PlayStation Studios' second big move into the live service space, and much like Helldivers 2 did back in February, Concord will be dropping day and date on PS5 and PC, which will undoubtedly help it some, though it remains to be seen if draconian PSN login requirements or a general malaise toward colorful hero shooters will be working against it. If you're still playing World of Warcraft, you're probably well aware the War Within expansion is coming on the 26th, and hopefully you're not suffering too much inner turmoil about whether or not to check it out. On the 27th, Core Keeper leaves early access on Steam and brings its 8-player co-op survival mining in an endless cavern of creatures to all of the consoles. It's about time that somebody made a survival game that involves mining stuff. Hey, have you ever wished that Fall Guys wasn't about a bunch of cartoon jellybean boys doing Nickelodeon game show pratfalls and was instead about doing sick parkour across a realistic urban playground? Well, Supermoves is basically 40-player competitive Mirror's Edge with realistic customizable maps and 8 game modes. That might be a more compelling comparison than serious Fall Guys, but still, you see where I'm coming from, right? It's like Fall Guys with humans. Anyway, that hits PC on the 28th. I thought I was almost done with this video, but a whole mess of games are slated to drop on the 29th, and I have a hunch that that's because it's the last business day of the quarter when you account for global time differences, so this is the absolute deadline for any games that were touting a summer 2024 release window before they are technically coming out in the fall, so they may all come out on time, but I also wouldn't be that shocked if a couple of these got delayed. For starters, there's Akimbot, which is a 3D action platformer that kind of looks like Ratchet and Clank in Master Chief cosplay, and that seems like a good time. That's on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Shadow of the Ninja-Reborn resurrects everyone's second or third favorite 8-bit side-scroller about ninjas who are not mutant, teenage, or turtles, reinventing the Natsume cult classic with some modern sensibilities and some killer artwork. That's on everything but Xbox One. For more pixelated martial arts action, there's Bloodless on PC, which lets you hit lots of samurai bad guys with your bare hands, countering their attacks and then taking them down non-lethally, thus the name. Considerably less bloodless is Gori, Cuddly Carnage, in which you are a cat with goggles and a hoverboard murdering a bunch of awful horse guys, among other things. That's on everything but Switch. Gundam Breaker actually sounds like a pretty good name for a house cat, but it's actually a series about mobile suits, including but not limited to Gundams. Gundam Breaker 4, which I think is technically the 5th or 6th entry in the series, promises plenty of bashing and kit bashing. That's on PC, Switch, and both the PlayStations. If you've ever considered kit bashing a squirrel and a gun, well, bad news because somebody beat you to the punch. The extremely self-explanatory and very funny looking Squirrel with a gun hits PC with new-gen console versions planned for later this fall. If you're desperately seeking some densetsu, Visions of Mana is the first proper entry in that beloved rabbit-infested RPG series in quite some time. I have fond memories of the original Secret of Mana on Super NES, though I was always more fond of its dumber American cousin Secret of Evermore because he had a cool dog you got to hang out with, but guess what? Visions of Mana has a cool dog too, and he's huge, and you can ride around on him, and even better, he looks exactly like my dog, and I think that's great. Anyway, you can pretend to ride around on my small dog on PC, Xbox Series, and both PlayStations. What, you want me to shut up? Am I talking too much? Fine, you go sit on the couch then. Finally, on the 29th, there's Emio, the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club, which hits Switch. This is that weird, creepy thing that Nintendo was teasing a while back, and everyone thought it was going to be like an M-rated horror game, but in fact, it is an M-rated installment in a long-dormant adventure series, which is a bit out of the ordinary for the usual family-friendly company who doesn't make M-rated stuff. Though, I don't know, it's going to have like a dead kid with a bag on his head. It looks weird. I'm curious. Penultimately, on the 30th, Galaxy Highways is completely devoid of any clearly indicated deep space thoroughfares, clover leaves, or turnpikes, or anything of the sort, but it seems like it has plenty of good old-fashioned shmup action for anybody who would rather shoot stuff in space than stay in their lane. That's on PC. And finally, speaking of shooting stuff in space, Star Wars Outlaws is technically out on the 27th for people who bought the expensive edition, but the release date for everybody else is August 30th. That whole business model is annoying, but aside from that, I'm really excited about this one. It's a AAA open-world Star Wars game framed around the seedy underbelly of the criminal underworld, and it's set squarely between my favorite two-thirds of the original trilogy. Sign me up! And now I realize there are a bunch of Star Wars fans who have a bad feeling about this one, but it got me thinking, what's the last piece of Star Wars media that was for everyone?
Harder to answer. Meditate on this. I will.
Seriously, think about this. It is a vast multimedia galaxy that has been around for almost half a century, and in that time it has been interpreted in virtually every conceivable medium or product. It has been holiday specials, anime, burlesque shows, tape dispensers, Dutch ovens. At this point, saying that you're a Star Wars fan is such a blanket statement that it's barely a statement. Does that mean that you've seen all the movies at least once and you thought they were pretty cool and you maybe remember some character names? Does that mean that you've consumed every last piece of media and loved it unconditionally, even when it contradicts existing media?
I want to be the first one to see them all.
Does that mean that you get into online arguments about Ki-Adi-Mundi's canonical age and send hate mail to Kelly Marie Tran?
That's disgraceful.
I'm gonna throw this one out there. If you find yourself devoting more energy towards disliking something that you theoretically like than you do to actually liking it, maybe it's worth examining whether or not you do in fact like that thing anymore. I was obsessed with Boba Fett for like 27 years.
You are in my very soul.
And then they made that Disney Plus show about him, and I did not love that. And shortly thereafter, I put most of my massive collection of Boba Fett stuff in storage, and I stopped buying new merchandise entirely, and I blame the show for some of that, but not all of that.
Always in motion is the future.
I might have packed up all my toys, but I'm still unpacking why a thing that made me happy for most of my life suddenly stopped making me happy.
I hate them.
Media changes, but people change too, and so do their tastes. And at various points in my life, I've fallen in and out of love with Star Wars.
I loved you.
But most recently, I found myself doing the latter, and it's a bummer. But guess what? Jedi Survivor and Andor were two very notable exceptions that loudly reminded me why I like Star Wars in the first place.
And maybe it's true. Maybe fighting's useless.
Outlaws looks like the sandbox of scum and villainy I have always dreamed of getting to play. I get to sneak into Jabba's palace. I can play Sabacc with Lando. I can do hood rat with my womp rat friend, or whatever the hell Nyx is. What's exhausting and depressing and honestly kind of bums me out about this game is the sheer volume of negative energy that surrounds it. And this is true of basically everything Star Wars, despite it being the only franchise that repeatedly, in no uncertain terms, explicitly and canonically hammers home the idea that giving in to anger and hate and fear is bad for you and everyone around you.
What does that got to do with anything?
That's what those movies are about. They made 9 of them.
See through you. We can.
I'm not saying love it or leave it, but I'm saying if you find it pissing you off more than it making you happy, maybe go seek out something that actually brings you joy. Anyway, Star Wars Outlaws hits PC, PS5, and Xbox Series, and if you hate the idea of this game and everything it stands for, that is your business, but I would much rather hear about what you are playing and why than what you're not playing and why you're not playing it. So let us know in the comments along with anything we may have missed. Friendly reminder, the IGN playlist app is a much more efficient way of keeping track of upcoming game releases than a monthly video where a depressed Star Wars guy Trojan horses a therapy session into it for some reason.
You have strong feelings about this.
I don't know, it's very hot in here. This is a long week. I made it longer making this video. I'm sorry to my editor. Sorry, Chris, my bad.
Everything is going to be all right.
So anyway, here's a handy dandy QR code and also a trusty little URL. I'll be back in a month with September's biggest games, plus a look ahead at some of the highlights from this fall, which we're somehow going to produce in between, possibly during San Diego Comic-Con and also Gamescom. None of this would be possible without Amanda Medina, Chris Belpadre, and Logan Plant, so huge thanks to them for making these videos happen, and huge thanks to everybody for sticking around and watching. I appreciate you. On that note, may the Force be with you, unless you hate Star Wars and think it's stupid, in which case, have a good one, pal. See you around.